Hey, this is Michelle Caswell, and this is the Purely His podcast. And I'm super excited today to be here with my friend Krista. And we have this really cool topic that we're going to talk about that I feel is so important because I believe it is a topic that is not talked about in church very much. And that is about food addiction and about gluttony and about losing weight and things like that. Because you have had a miraculous, and just a huge transformation from the inside out. And one of the things I've noticed, because I've gone in so many churches, is that there's a lot of people in our churches now that are overweight, that are struggling in this area, but it's not talked about, especially with women, because I really believe they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's a touchy subject, and that's what we want to do on this podcast, is talk about touchy subjects so that we can make it to where it's like, no, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. So you and I met probably a few years ago, because I know that you had come to our house, or our property in California when we did the revivals.
Yes.
And I know that you have friends that had gone through Purely His, through the groups. And I remember seeing you at the baptism we did in Shady Cove down there at the river. And then I had the privilege of having you in my own Purely His group when we did one in White City, Oregon, not that long ago. And so in there, that's where I actually got to get to know you, and I got to know, your story and what you were going through. And so I personally have got to see you transform before my very eyes, but you had been working on your transformation story for many years now. And so, and I know you have a lot of things in your past, but the one part I really wanted to focus on was this area of how you transform from the inside to the out. So how you made your outsides finally match your insides. So, we were talking on the phone yesterday, just kind of, hey, what are we going to talk about? All this stuff. And you had mentioned that at your highest weight, you were over 400 pounds, which is
Yes.
crazy because, and I follow you on Facebook, so I've seen the pictures, but I'm like, oh my gosh. And so you have been working on this for a long time, but I just wanted to kind of open it up to you because I know you've shared your story so many times.
Right.
So you probably have an idea of where you want to go. But my first question is how did you get to that place? Like what drove you to the place where you got that heavy?
Yeah. I would say that my earliest addiction, and I always have said this, was to food.
Mm.
Food was my comfort. Food was my friend when I was anxious, when I was happy, it just calmed me down and got me through. It just made time go smoother and quicker. And I have always been, I say always, and it's weird now because I am not at that place, but I've always been overweight, and I've always struggled with my weight and how people would see me and view me. And yeah, I didn't want anybody to tell me I was overweight or that I needed to lose weight, but those were some things that were said to me not so nicely a lot of times in my life. But there were times where doctors would say it to me and I'd go, maybe I need to change or things like that. But it wasn't until I had got clean and sober. And I was telling you last night on the phone that when I got clean and sober, I gave up everything, food, sex, and tobacco. I'm sorry, I didn't
It's
say,
okay.
I didn't mean food, drugs,
Yeah.
alcohol, sex, tobacco. But the one thing that I did turn to was food. So
Yeah.
I had that cross addiction there. And I gained like 10 pounds a month for almost the first year
Wow.
in my recovery. And I was already overweight when I was in my addiction, my drug and alcohol addiction. So I got to that place in my recovery that I was like, I have been working on myself and working on all of these issues, but I really don't like this body that I'm sitting in.
Yeah.
This is uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable sitting here. I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And until I could confess to my friends, like that I have this problem and this
Yeah.
is where I want to work on, and that they could pray for me, that I could start to change.
Yeah. Which is so powerful because in the word, in the Bible, it says, confess your sins one to another, pray for one another, and you shall be healed. However, a lot of people think that is instant, that you get instant healing, like a miraculous healing. But with this type of addiction, a lot of times you don't just get deliverance from it. Like you have to work at it. There's so many different disciplines that take place, whether it's exercise or eating or thought process or all those things. But you had just mentioned that you were uncomfortable in your own body. So go a little bit more into that, because of course there's going to be women right now who are right there. They're uncomfortable in their own bodies. And with that, what did your weight prevent you from doing or having, or like thinking about yourself? Like, what did it prevent you from?
Well, first of all, I want to say that my weight and how my body was, it wasn't like how I looked. It wasn't necessarily that was the problem
Mm-hmm.
for me. Like I knew God loved me, how my body was,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't feel like I could serve him in the way that I wanted to serve him because I had
Okay.
no energy.
Mm.
And what I wanted to do is just eat my way through things. And like I said, food was just such a comfort. I mean, you go to any meeting at a church, anything,
Yep.
what are the things that draw us there? Food.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even now, it's like I read an invitation to something. I'm like, there's going to be food. And I'm like, oh, I have to remind myself, like, I do not need to be an addict to food. I don't need to be motivated by food. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be motivated. Why does God want me there? And what does he
Yeah.
want me to do there?
Mm-hmm.
So it really prevented me from living the life that God intended for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just physically uncomfortable.
Okay.
Like to carry so much weight. I carried most of my weight right here in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, it was just dragging me down. My back hurt, my legs hurt, my feet hurt every day.
Mm.
And I finally just got to a place where I'm just like, I need to do something different. And it has to be drastic.
Yeah.
It can't just be just a little step, even though that's how it started, with just little steps.
Yeah.
Literally little steps. Like
Yes.
going for a walk down 5 houses down the street and walking back. Like just starting a routine of just doing little things that changed what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But a big step for me was I got into a Daniel plan group with some ladies from church,
Mm-hmm.
where we looked at all different areas of our life, and food was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And exercising, finding those things. So you see me, you follow me on Facebook.
Yep.
and see all of my adventures and things that I like to do.
Yeah.
I had to become to like those things. Like I like to go outside and see God's beauty, but to get there, it takes work.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I had to intentionally just change the way that I was seeing the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to get out there and move just a little bit more. And the best thing is that I had friends that wanted to support me in those areas. They knew that I wanted to do these things. And so like when I started hiking, I could just hike a little distance and have a friend that would actually hold my hand, because I was afraid I was going to fall over because my ankles weren't going to support me.
Wow.
And just step by step until I could get more steps in there.
Yeah. Which is literally like that whole, like AANA or whatever. They're like one step at a time, or one day, or I guess they do one day at a time, but this is one step at a time, because you can't get any motion if you don't take that first step. And you do have to do things afraid sometimes. It's like, I'm so afraid, but I got to take this step, because you know what you want to be. You know you want to have more energy. You know you want to do things that you see other people doing, and you do want to feel better. Like you don't want to have all of this pain. And you know that the weight is causing those things. So it's preventing you from the life that you really wanted to have. And so that journey of finally going, oh my goodness, I actually have a food addiction. And you first told those women, this is something I need to work on. So you confessed that to them. Approximately how long ago was that when you first were like, this needs to be addressed?
I would say it was almost 10 years ago, like 9 years ago, that I entered the Daniel Plan group, and I was committed to following this process.
Mm-hmm.
And then by a certain week in the Daniel plan, we got to a point where we were going to eliminate a lot of food things from our diet and kind of just figure out how our body reacted to things. And that was like the hardest step, to just completely eliminate all of these things and start really fresh and really clean, eating like Daniel did.
Yeah.
And
so is that like fruits, vegetables, grains, like stuff like that? I've never done it. So
yeah, it was eating very clean. I mean, no preservative, like the MSG and things like that, and just no sugar added to your spaghetti sauce. And, it just really, really clean. And with the meats, really clean also.
Okay. Nice. And so that was really hard for you to start like eliminating certain things. But it's kind of like, and me being an ex-drug addict myself, ex-alcoholic myself, you go cold turkey. You have to cut it out. You can't just be like, I'm just going to do meth on the weekends and, I'm just going to go down to, just beers at night. You have to just cut it out. But food is not that way. Food is an addiction that you have to eat in order to survive. And so you have to eat, but you have to learn a new way of eating. So it's just like with me in my past, I had a sex addiction. Well, I'm married now, so I can't just be like cold turkey, no sex. I had to completely change my mindset about it. And then when it was reintroduced, I had to do it in a way that was healthy for me and in balance. And it's something that not all addictions do you get reintroduced to. So with food, you're reintroduced to it, but now you have to view it in a different way. So you said you went through that Daniel program. What other types of programs or help did you get like on the inside that then helped you make this transformation on the outside? So you said you had friends that were supportive. So you had a support group. You started with that Daniel thing. What are some other things that you do in your life or have done that have helped you get healthy?
Well, I work the steps, a step program of recovery. So a big part of my recovery story is through Celebrate Recovery, which is like any hurt, habit, or hang up. And so when I'm working the steps, we're not just looking at the addictions of drugs or alcohol or things like that in our past. We are looking at anything that's keeping us separated from God.
Yes.
And I was able to take a different look at different times and go deeper into these areas. And I really remember sitting in my step group one time and just crying across the table, just being like, I don't want to be in this body.
Yeah.
Not because of how it looked, but because of how it felt. How hard it was just to sit there and be able to support myself sitting at a table in a group from people. I wanted to be able to do more.
Yeah. That's good. And did you get any counseling? Have you been like a regular church attender? Like, what are some other things that like have given you the support that you need?
Yes, I've been a regular church attender for the past 14 years. And even through my church, we have done like a healthy bodies kind of program. And I remember us going out walking in that program and meeting up. Even when it was raining, like you can still go out walking in the rain. Yeah. And when you make a commitment to doing something, you do it. Even if it's cold out, you wear a jacket. If it's raining, we put on trash bags one time because it was like just raining so hard. And we're committed just to going outside. And that was just walking up and down the streets in Grants Pass. It doesn't have to be outside and doing a hike or, some special, really location. You do it wherever you are. Yeah. So other programs and things that helped me is I did do some counseling because at the time I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. And so I would go to counseling sessions through that, like with a nutritionist and somebody that could help me look at the things that I'm eating and evaluate my program and what I was doing at the time. But I've had my sponsor that can help me talk through some issues too, and other people that are struggling, and just come beside them at the same time. Because when you're coming beside somebody, you're also helping yourself out during that.
That's so good. Well, and the way that I see things is that there's symptoms and there's root causes. So when somebody is overweight and to the place of like obesity, I'm like, that is a symptom of a deeper issue. I'm always like, what happened to that person that made them have to run to food for comfort? Or it's same with a drug addiction, alcohol, or whatever. Those are just symptoms of a deeper issue. Do you know, like, have you been able to identify like, this was my deeper issue? Because you were saying that you were running to it for comfort. And so what did you need to be comforted from? And when did you kind of like, when do you think that started? Because you were kind of saying like, I've kind of been overweight like all my life. So is there something that happened to you that made you go, I need to be comforted?
Yeah, it's hard to look at, but I think that in my childhood, I felt abandoned and alone. And if I was needing a friend or something, I could go to ice cream. And if I wanted, if I was upset about something, like I had to do the dishes or something, well, the dishes are right by the refrigerator. And so I could just eat or do something for comfort, no matter what it was, just even some bread or something like that. And I just remember getting home from school and wanting to go to a bowl of cereal or something like that. So I think, we've talked about it a little bit in here with this podcast today, but just, the things that it helped me with was to just deal with everyday issues.
Yeah.
I wanted somebody to be there, I guess.
Yes.
And instead food was.
Yeah. And I've heard that a lot from different women. And so that was in the past. And that's kind of what, and the thing is like when something like that happens and that becomes our go-to, then that becomes our habit. And then that becomes the way our lifestyle is. It's just like, it doesn't just like happen like boom, it's more of a, this was going on. This was my go-to. This became my habit. Now it's a lifestyle. Now that was years ago. So in your healing and where you're at now in life, because life is still life. So life's still hard and we still get lonely and we still get sad and we still get anxious or whatever. So what's your go-to now?
Well, of course, you try to replace anything that you have with a healthy habit. And for me, it's that I admit it to people, like, hey, I'm struggling with something. So I was with friends this weekend and I just said to them, I really need to do something different with my diet right now. And so I just committed to going sugar free or just getting off sugar and desserts.
Okay.
Because even though I'm at the place physically where I want to be, like I still, all these other things creep in. And so I'm like, I got to make a change. And so I've just committed to doing that. And so we prayed for each other. We prayed that God's going to give us the strength, daily. He's going to fill us up with what we need. And so that's been easy for me the past 2 days, to not have sugar and to reach for something.
Yeah. So you're drawing on God's strength and the strength of your friends' prayers. And are they doing it with you?
I have one friend that is.
That's that's so awesome. Because basically what you're doing is you're fasting from sugar. So you're laying sugar down and instead of running to sugar, because I struggle in that area. That has always been a hard one for me is sugar. And so, but when we lay it down, when we fast from it, we're basically saying, when I'm upset, I'm not going to run to you, but I'm going to run to the Lord instead. And so, but to have a friend who does it with you, it's so much better. It's still really hard because, man, sugar it's a tough one, especially the holidays because it's everywhere.
That's we were like, oh, this is the perfect time to fast from sugar because of Halloween coming up and just all the excess sugar and things that are about.
Yeah, totally. And then you have Thanksgiving and all the pies and then Christmas and Christmas cookies. And then every single women's meeting you go to at church, everyone's brought their homemade whatever. And it's a real struggle. So for those women who are out there right now who are like, I want to start too, but I probably just need to start in January because I don't know if I can get through these holidays. Like, what would you say to people who are like, no, I'm going to start later instead of right now because I don't know about all this stuff. Like, what would you say to somebody?
Don't wait.
Okay.
Don't wait to start.
Yeah.
I know everybody always does the Monday or the next week or after the holidays. Don't wait, because you're going to let yourself gain 10 more pounds or feel
Exactly.
so much worse about yourself, or, end up once you get into one addiction, it slides into others. So
Yep.
Christmas comes and it's like, oh, I'll just spend extra money and things too.
Oh, that's good.
Like, just start now.
Yeah.
Commit to something now.
Because a big part of controlling addictions, or when we're trying to get out of addictions, is we need a lot of self-control. Because what happens in addictions when we let ourselves go in whatever area, and that habit has become a lifestyle, a big thing that's lacking is our self-control. We don't ever tell ourselves no. And so we have to learn how to tell ourselves no. And that's why fasting is so critical when we are trying to break strongholds in our life with addictions. So, I remember, trying to heal from my sexual addiction. I fasted from food because I was telling myself, if I can tell myself no to food, I can tell myself no to this.
That's good.
And so I found great freedom in doing that. And it was really hard. And I didn't start off with a 3-day just water fast. I just started with like, okay, I'm just not going to eat lunch today, and I'm going to fast lunch. And then it was like, okay, let me see if I can do breakfast and lunch. Did that another time. Okay, let me see if I can do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Did that. And so I kept going. And then one time I got up to 7 days with just drinking liquids. And, but I was doing that because I needed to reteach myself to say no to things that my body wanted, because just because my body wanted it, like my body wanted sin. My body wanted things that were absolutely destroying my life. And so I needed to get my body back under control. And I don't think I had ever done that in my whole entire, I never had any self-control. I was just like, whatever I want, and I'm going to get it. And so, but then you pay the consequences that some are lasting a lifetime. And so I think that is so key to what you're doing right now, is you're just taking one thing, as big as it is, because we all know, especially in America, sugar's a tough one. But you're taking one thing and you're like, no, I am fasting from this. I'm going no sugar. So what is your plan with that? Have you kind of decided, like, I'm going no sugar for this amount of time? This is my goal. What is your goal?
I have said 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I'll reevaluate at that point.
Yes.
Because I can get through 2 weeks.
Yes. Which is good. And in that, you are working on your self-control. You're strengthening that muscle. You're strengthening that part of you, which is a fruit of the Spirit. But it's just that a lot of Christians don't use that, especially in this area. So I don't know, like you had said that you had some people kind of call you out, for lack of better words, in your past, like, hey, you need to lose weight, or a doctor, or this, or whatever. How many times have you actually heard this talked about in church? Is this a normal thing you've heard in church, or is this one of those topics that, like, I haven't really heard too much about it?
I think it's danced around, self-control, things like that. But saying that somebody is overweight or that they need to lose weight, first of all, people don't know how to say it tactfully.
Yeah.
It's such a touchy subject.
Yes.
And it's one that a lot of people don't want to take on directly.
Yeah.
The leadership, I don't think, in a church wants to take on directly.
Yeah. But you are like the perfect person to take it on, because you can say things without the judgment. You're like, listen, here's my before and my after picture. Like, this is something I struggle with, but we need to talk about that gluttony is actually a sin. And it's okay to talk about it, just like we talk about all these other touchy subjects in church. It's okay to talk about it. It's almost like you just have to normalize that, hey, this is a struggle that a lot of us have, especially in America. It really is a struggle, but it is a sin that needs to be repented from. And it is something that you can find somebody like you did, find a friend that you can confess that sin to and say, hey, I need some help here. I need some accountability. I really need to take control over my body and get my body, lined up with what's going on the inside. Because for you are such a godly woman. You live a holy life. You live a righteous life. You've done so much inner healing You've repented from all kinds of things. You've forgiven all kinds of people. You have forgiven yourself. You work the steps. You attend church. You're on the worship team, the singer, on the worship team. You do all of these things, but your insides were still not matching your outsides. So now you're like, okay, I've done all this hard work on the inside. Now it's time to work on the outside. And there's that part in the Bible where it talks about, he's calling people out because he's like, you hypocrites, all you do is work on the outside, clean the outside of the cup instead of clean the inside of the cup. Clean the inside of the cup. And so you did it the right way.
I cleaned the inside first.
Yes. And then you started to clean the outside. Then you started to make your outsides match your insides. And so many times in church, and I know this because of my past, I did not dress appropriately when I went to church, or when I was around church people. I was very seductive in the way that I dressed, and a lot of people thought that I was a stripper or something. And so a lot of people would come at me for my looks in a different way and call me out. And basically they just made me feel horrible about myself. And I felt very judged. And I didn't even know how to dress. I didn't have the money to go dress like that. I didn't know how to dress like that. I had looked like that for a very long time, but people wanted me to pull my shirt up or make sure my skirt was long enough, or not wear so much makeup, or change my mannerisms. It's like, it took me a very long time to change those things on the outside. So a lot of people, when they first started discipling me or trying to mentor me, wanted to work from the outside in. And we find that in churches where people don't cuss, don't wear those clothes, don't smoke outside after church. You got to look a certain way. You got to fit the part, instead of going, why is this person dressing like this? Why are they smoking like that? Why do they talk like that? Hey, let's help this person heal. Let's help this disciple this person from the inside out. Because when the heart changes and the mind changes, the outsides just start to change. You just start going, whoops, sorry, I cussed. I just don't like those kind of clothes anymore. Or I'm feeling like I need to stop smoking, or I need to, whatever the thing is. I'm using smaller examples, but I just find that a lot of churches or Christian people want us to hurry, change the outside. And it's like, that's not going to last very long. But your transformation, whoops, I hit that. Your transformation, because you started from the inside out, your transformation will stick.
Oh.
Because you're not faking it till you make it.
Right.
And so that's what I see. I feel like now your outsides match your insides.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend. So one part that we didn't talk about here is I lost weight doing the Daniel plan.
Yes.
And then I got to a part where I plateaued.
Okay.
And so I just want to mention to people that I did have gastric bypass 2.5 years ago. And I had to be super disciplined during that time. And I drew on all of the things that I've learned in recovery. Like, you have to follow the program. You have to do certain steps.
Yes.
And so I was able to lose the rest of the weight that I wanted to lose. And then even recently, I've gone and had skin removal surgery.
That's amazing.
And I didn't want it to be like a vain thing that I was doing. I wasn't doing it because I wasn't happy with my body. I was still uncomfortable carrying around a total of 12 pounds of skin that I had removed.
Wow.
And my friend said to me before I went and had the surgery, she's like, you're finally going to get back to the body that God intended for you to have. And I was like, that is a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to mention that, when you were asking the last question, that like, how am I now, and how am I walking through things?
Yes.
Like, I'm still, I know, and I knew even then when I said I was sitting at that table, at 400 pounds going, this is not the body that I'm comfortable in or that God wants me to be in. But I knew that God absolutely loved me at that weight. And he loves me just as much when I lost 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And he loves me just as much now in the body that I'm in.
Yes.
That didn't change who I am inside.
Yes.
But like you said, now my outside matches all of the work that I've done inside.
Totally.
The discipline that I've had to lose the weight, to be determined, to follow this path that God has set out before me.
Yeah.
And my journey is not done in that area.
Mm-hmm.
I am still gonna, like I'm doing now, reevaluating my sugar, and you always are gonna have to look at your diet, throughout your life. And I continue to work on my physical health in terms of going out and hiking and going to the gym, and also being there for other people.
Totally. Well, and there's a couple things I want to touch on that. One is you lost a bunch of weight on your own without going to surgery, of any type for a few years, several years of doing that. And whenever someone decides to like take it up a notch and get professional help and get surgery, others might be like, "Oh, that's cheating." But I don't view it that way at all. You have to do what you have to do. And if you need help professionally from a doctor to be able to get you to the place that you will feel comfortable in your own skin, literally, because there's one part of knowing God loves you and really like accepting that love. Like God totally loves me and totally accepts me. And that is amazing. And I know my friends totally love me and totally accept me. But you have to live with yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to be sitting at the table for hours at a meeting. You need to be to where you love yourself and you're comfortable in your own skin. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all, especially in this type of area. Some people need that type of professional help. And I know other people, 3 other people who had those same types of surgeries because they also struggled in the same way. And they were so much happier afterwards because when you do gain that much weight and then you lose that much weight, you can't lose that skin. So it's something that you have to actually take it up a notch and have a doctor help you. So how do you feel about yourself now, physically?
I feel great. I mean, I'm right now 4.5 months out of skin removal surgery. So I'm still doing a lot of rehabilitation to get my body back to where I can move the way that I want to with it. It's been a hard process.
Yeah.
It's not like I went in there and had stuff removed and I'm okay. Like I had to really follow a plan.
Yeah.
And even so afterward, I had to create stuff for myself for, like physical therapy and reintroducing the gym slowly.
Yeah.
And
well, because with that, and again, following you on Facebook, it looked extremely painful. Extremely. And that's the healing physically. But it's like, if you really look at it, because you're so positive, you're so joyful. Like anyone who meets you is like, oh my gosh, she has so much joy. You just always like seem joyful. But I know that your journey to where you've gotten has been extremely painful, hasn't it? Like
all of it.
Physical, emotional, spiritual. Like you had to like, for lack of better words, fight like hell to get to where you're at.
I had to be ready for the fight.
Yep.
I had to be prepared beforehand and know that it was going to be a journey that I needed to be all in.
Yeah.
I couldn't just be like, okay, I'm going to go try this. Like,
yeah,
I had to be ready for weight loss surgery and the slow rehabilitation from that. That is like 400 calories for the first couple months. And just like I had to have that discipline.
Yeah.
And know that I was going to stick to it.
That's a good.
And and then the skin removal surgery, it was like, I know this is going to be hard. I don't know everything that it is going to entail. And I know there's going to be side things that happen or could happen, complications. And I just had to know that God wanted me to do this and it was going to be okay and that he would get me through it and be completely committed to the process.
Yeah. So basically what I'm hearing you say is that you counted the cost. You looked at the project, you looked at like, okay, and this was in the very beginning of you like, that's it. I've got to lose weight. I got to get this part of me under control. But it's like, even back then, it's like looking ahead going, I'm going to get to the place where I am healthy, where I'm comfortable in my own skin. I'm going to kick this addiction like I kicked every other addiction. I'm going to do this.
Yes.
But then you start looking ahead and going, what is this going to look like? Oh man, I'm going to have to talk about why I did this. I'm going to have to repent from this. I'm going to have to change the way I view food. I'm going to have to change the way I eat. I'm going to have to exercise. I'm going to have to do all of these different things, over this time. But you looked ahead and you chose to count the cost, and you were like, I'm up for it. Even though I don't know what it's all going to look like, I know it's going to be painful and it's going to be hard, but I am up for it. I'm here for it. Is that kind of like, so you like made up your mind. You got determined from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going all in with this decision. So you didn't just go, oh, I'll just try the gym and see if I like it, or I'll try to like not eat pizza. I'll just see if I can do it. You weren't wishy-washy at all. You were like determined.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so you made that decision in your own heart before you went on this journey. And let me guess, you probably had to make that decision more than once. It wasn't just like, I made this decision one time to go all in. I'm guessing you had to re-up on your commitment a few times.
Oh, several times. I mean, I've talked about different programs I've entered, and things that I've done. Some things didn't work, and I probably haven't mentioned those here, which I can't even think of what they are right now because there's so many things
that you tried.
Yeah, that I've tried. But like with the Daniel plan, it's like, okay, I'll commit to this class once a week and do the homework. Oh, and I got to do these other things, but I had committed to it. Like that's what I was going to do. And when I got to the point of having the weight loss surgery, it's like I was not doing it for anybody else.
Okay.
I mean, people are like, "Oh, you want to do it for this reason, this reason." Like no, I'm doing it for myself, for my own health.
Yeah.
And where it's going to take me. And then I had no intention when I had that weight loss surgery of having skin removal surgery.
Okay.
Like I was just looking at that picture that was right in front of me then. Like, I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to think about all of the other things. I will deal with those as they come.
There you go.
And so I just looked at the one project. But then after like a year and a half of having lost all of my weight after a year and just being like, going to the gym and being like, well, this is always going to be sitting here. This is always going to be uncomfortable. I just said, okay, I'm going to do the skin removal surgery. And I wasn't sure exactly what things I was going to have done. And I was able to talk about that with my surgeon and decide from there.
That's good. That's good. And so in this area, like right now, you said that you're cutting out sugar. Like, do you have any kind of like goals in this area other than that? Or it's just more like, no, I've gotten healthy and I'm going to stay healthy. Like or are you kind of like, no, I'm already getting ready to get on to the next thing that I'm working on? Or is this still something that's like, no, it's still pretty high priority for me. This is still something I have to be intentional about.
My health has to be super intentional right now because I am not done healing from the surgery.
Okay.
From weight loss, from the skin removal surgery. And I don't want to go back to gaining weight.
Okay.
Food is always going to be there and I can't use it as a reward.
Okay.
I need to have Jesus as my reward every day in my life. And so I'm calling on him to get me through this step.
Good.
This 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And during that time, I'm not forgetting the physical health goals that I have, going to the gym and stretching and working to get my body back to, full mobility that I was before the surgery that I just had. So my goals right now are just look at this one little step.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, and do you now have more energy to do the things that you want to do? Like, are you able to do more ministry type things, except for, of course, healing part, but have you found that you've gotten back some of those types of things?
I have. I am a lot more energy overall.
Mm-hmm.
I am just surprised that I'm able to not sleep as much. Well, first of all, from losing weight, so many health benefits have come with that. I was mentioning that I was type 2 diabetic, and I was on insulin twice a day
Oh, wow.
for like 8 years or something.
Okay.
And then when I did Daniel Plan and just by my food, my diet and exercise, I was able to get off of insulin and only be on oral meds for diabetes.
Wow.
Since my weight loss surgery, I'm off of any kind of diabetic meds and my numbers are super.
That's amazing.
So I'm not even considered diabetic anymore.
Okay.
Which is, God has healed me. Like how many people can actually say you have been healed from diabetes?
That's amazing.
And I can say that. I had sleep apnea before I lost weight. So I don't have to use a machine and carry that around. I can go camping and not, worry about having an electrical outlet or something to plug into. My heart is so much healthier. My liver is so much healthier. My kidneys.
Yeah.
Just so many things in my body that physically, I'm very proud of all of the steps that I'm doing. I go to see my doctor and he gives me a hug. I'm so proud of you.
Aww.
Even through all of this, like he supported my decision to have the weight loss surgery, to have the skin removal surgery. And he's just like, you are amazing.
That's awesome.
And I just am so thankful that I have a physician that will stand by my side, with all of these choices that I make. So it's important to have, somebody that's going to support you in the medical field with your decisions.
Yeah.
But I'm able to go about my day and not require as much sleep as I did before. I just was tired all of the time. And when I was overweight, I just was tired all the time. And I love to be able to go out and hike and not worry about, just not even being able to make it.
Yeah.
And physically, like being so sore after those hikes that I would do.
Well, you're very adventurous. You've been visiting families, you've been going these different mountains and these different by creeks and streams. And I mean, you're just going out and doing stuff all the time. So it's amazing to watch because I don't know person, but it's like from what I hear, your journey has been so hard. It's been so hard to get to where you're at, but the benefits are sounding like they are outweighing how hard it was for you to get to this place. Like basically the benefits are worth it.
Of course.
And so for these women who, there could be women listening to this that are literally housebound because of their weight. And so, or people who have just struggled I've tried everything. I've tried every fad diet, every this, every that. And to them, like, what would you say? Because like one of the things I heard you say is you literally determined in your own mind. You knew ahead of time it was going to be really hard. So you counted the cost, but you made a decision in your mind, like a determined decision. I'm going to do this no matter what. And it sounds like you kept making that decision. And then you started taking those small steps that turned into bigger steps. And you're still doing it. So 10 years ago is when you kind of started that journey.
Yes.
And you're still doing it. So you have made this a lifestyle. So to that woman who is feeling really discouraged, like, yeah, I've tried all this stuff or they're like housebound, like what would you say to that woman who is, 10 and a half years ago with where you were at?
Right.
How would you talk to her?
Well, first of all, there's going to be so many obstacles that you think I cannot change. Like I'm stuck like this.
Yeah.
And you are not. If you want to change, ask God for that help to give you the strength to want to change in the first place.
That's good.
And God will show you a way. God will show you, just make this step, connect with this person, go to this group. And if you really want to change, you just have to go all in. You just have to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
And if you make those small steps, they will turn into bigger steps. Like you can't just say, maybe you do. Maybe you say, I'm going to learn how to run a marathon and you figure that out. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know if that's the right plan for my body, but maybe somebody does that. I've heard about people doing something like that. So find something you like to do. People you want to trust and want to go on this journey with you maybe, or just support you in the journey. But there's no shame in just saying, I need help from somebody.
Yeah. And I think for me, so I'm a visionary, so I struggle really bad doing the details from right here, right now, like first, second, third. But where I do best is I have to picture the end from the beginning and work backwards. So I kind of have a vision in my mind of, so for like those women who are listening, it's almost like picture yourself healthy, picture yourself happy, picture yourself in the body that you really will feel comfortable in, picture that, way out here. Now work backwards. Okay, what's one step I can do to start to get to that place, And so I know for myself, coming out of my other types of addictions, I had to picture myself married to a godly man in ministry, being a good mom, which at that time I was none of those things. So I had to kind of picture like, what could it look like if I really put the work in now? And so, that might help those people who are a little bit more wired like I am. And then it's like, yeah, just get started. And so maybe, because I have a feeling there's going to be a few women that are going to reach out and are going to be like, I would love to be able to talk to Krista. So if someone reaches out privately, would you mind if I connected them with you?
I would love it.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes it's like, they just might not have someone that they feel like could relate to them.
Right.
So maybe if they have a conversation with you that's like, okay, if Krista did it, I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have people that reach out to me and I have advice for them, and you can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to work for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the right person, but I definitely am not going to shame you for wherever you are.
Yes.
I've been stuck there. I've been stuck at the bottom and physically not able to do a thing, not want to do a thing.
Yeah. That's amazing. And also, if anybody wanted to reach out to me, I'm good at helping people find the root cause and help them heal from the root cause of whatever their symptoms are. So maybe together we can help some of these women get to the place that they really want to get to. So yeah, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
You have done the work, and it is very evident. And now the whole world can see, that the hard work that you put into it has paid off and is continuing to pay off. And now it's like the Lord will use you even more. And so your story has become your authority. It's like the thing that you were ashamed of or that held you back, that you were so stuck. Now that you've been putting in this work, it's like the Lord's like, hey, could I use you to help a few other ladies? Because there's some other ladies that are really struggling like you. And now you're able to be at a place that you can offer that type of advice. You can disciple somebody. You can help someone with the first, second, third step.
Right.
Because you've been there, done that, and still doing it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'm still doing it, and I'll still be doing it.
Yep.
And I want to be able to use my story for His glory.
Yeah, totally. That's amazing. That's a good line. My story for His glory. So instead of me praying today, which is what I normally do, I would love for you to pray, especially for those women that are struggling, those women that are like, I need a breakthrough right now. I need a story like Krista, but I'm struggling with the motivation. Would you please pray for those ladies?
I would love to.
Okay, thank you.
Heavenly Father, Lord, I pray for anybody out there that is struggling at this time, that those women that are watching this right now that feel like they are stuck, Lord, help them make a decision to walk toward you, to get your guidance and your support in this area, to find another person that can come walk beside them and help them down the path to health. Lord, I know that I had been so stuck before and didn't want to move, didn't want to do anything. Lord, help people get unstuck. Help them to be able to move in this world like you want them to move, to be able to see the things that you want them to see, to do the things that you want them to do. Lord, help free people from their chains. And Lord, I just welcome anybody to come forward and say, yes, I'm struggling and I need help. And Lord, at this time, we just pray over these people. We pray over the people that are going to come beside them and offer that hand to walk them up that path and to seek freedom in your name, Lord. We pray this. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for being on my podcast
You're welcome.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.